Good morning and good evening, everyone, because we are having our guest speaker in a faraway country. He is joining us from Canada, and I'm based in Sri Lanka. And this is none other than Dr. Ruwan Jayatunge. And we are going to discuss a topic which is quite interesting, which has been discussed before, debated, investigated, researched, and that is reincarnation. Now, reincarnation is very simply, as you know, it's a rebirth, and the belief that has been put forward by many religions, especially the Hinduism. Um, you have the Atman, and you get born, you die, and then you get born again, and that's the process of reincarnation. Now, the question is whether, well, even in Buddhism, it is advocated, but not in the name of reincarnation, but in Buddhist philosophy, they call it rebecoming because there's a slight difference. Now, what we are going to look at is a scientific approach to this because anything, finally, uh, what we, when we research, it is only a scientific approach that will give us a pragmatic outcome with which we will ascertain whether there is some correlation, and that's what scientific research means. So now let me introduce. So today's topic is reincarnation. Is it a myth or a fact? So before I invite Dr. Ruwan Jayatunge, let me introduce him. Give me a few minutes because he has a kind of a very distinguished medical and psychological career, so to say. So he is a renowned physician, psychologist, and academic with extensive experience in mental health and trauma. He earned his MD from Vinnytsia National Medical University, Ukraine in 1993 and has since made a significant contributions to the field of PTSD, particularly in Sri Lanka, where he pioneered research on the psychosocial effects of war trauma. I'm sure you know that Sri Lanka went through a very traumatic period, nearly 30 years, and there was a war. So these are areas that are less spoken. What the people go through. So he's a former commissioned officer in the Sri Lankan army. He served at the military hospital in Colombo, treating combatants with PTSD. He has trained internationally in diverse areas such as child psychology, that is Barnsley College, UK, and psychosocial rehabilitation in Humber College, Canada. EMDR, Philadelphia, USA, and cognitive behavioral therapy from University of Ottawa. Dr. Jayatunge holds degrees in psychology from York University, Canada, and Washburn University, USA, and earned his PhD in psychology from Salinas University in Italy. He is a prolific, so to say, author of books and research articles, collaborating with leading professionals in mental health. So currently, he serves as clinical director of Maple Serendip Rehab and supervises practicums at the University of Buffalo in USA. A guest lecturer at institutions like Harvard University and a member of the post-traumatic embitterment disorder PTED panel. Dr. Jayatunge continues to advance global understanding of PTSD and trauma recovery. So, needless to say, how important this area at a time the world in many areas are at conflicts. Right. Ruwan, uh, with that short introduction, I will leave the stage to you to uh, for you to present this important topic: reincarnation. Is it a myth or a fact? Because I'm sure there are a lot of interested people who want to know the scientific approach to this topic. Over to you, Ruwan.
Thank you, Dr. Vanigasekara. So let me share my screen and okay. So today's topic is reincarnation, whether it's a myth or a fact, and we'll try
Ruwan,
to.
go to the presentation mode. Make the
Yeah,
slide bigger.
I made it. Do you see the
And
slides?
no, no, not yet.
Oh, I already
Mm,
made it. I don't know why.
mm,
I think it happened before. I'll
mm.
try one more time,
Yeah,
and if it's
because
persisting, yeah,
yeah,
I
then we can
remember
continue that.
last time when I did a presentation, I made it bigger, but
Mm.
had the same problem.
Ah, yeah, now go back to the presentation and click
And
the
yeah, I made
presentation
it
mode.
bigger.
Okay. Okay. Now, no, no, no. Now it's a presentation. Now you go down and to see the
Yeah, I
presentation
did.
mode.
I
Okay.
already did that. Yeah, but
Okay.
still
So let's
you
continue.
don't get the full screen.
No.
Oh, yeah, I think this is a problem with my computer because I tried once.
Mm.
The result was the same. So, uh, I
No,
mean,
let's
I know
continue.
it's a
That's
little
okay.
bit troublesome. Is that okay?
No, no, it's visible.
Because
So we can read it. No problem.
okay, okay. So I'm really sorry about this technical problem because this occurred
Yeah.
a few weeks ago. I don't know how to fix it, but anyhow, in the future, I'll try to fix this. So
Okay, go ahead.
whether reincarnation is a fact or a fiction, but it's always with us because it's a popular belief among many people, and we know that it's a fundamental basis for many religions. And so, basic notion that when a person dies, he's reborn again. So, it's a highly philosophical, religious, and cultural concept, and many cultures, many religions share this idea. So we have to tell that yet the clinical evidence for reincarnation is subjective and arguable. And even Neanderthals, they lived 350,000 years ago, and they had unusual burial rituals. So anthropologists surmise that they had certain belief in afterlife. So this this concept of reincarnation was there throughout our civilization, and Mesopotamians who lived 6,000 years ago, they believed in afterlife. So from Mesopotamia, then the Sumerians also believed, but for them, the afterlife was not a very happy one. It was a miserable, great dark existence with all their ancestors. And the Egyptian pharaohs they believed in transmigration of the soul, so that's why they built mighty pyramids. Then the Egyptian, then the Greek civilization. So Greeks, they believed in reincarnation. Especially Pythagoras taught that the soul was immortal and it goes through series of rebirths. And Plato shared the same view. So in India, the concept of reincarnations first recorded in the Upanishads, and Hinduism also believe in reincarnation. And according to Hinduism, a person can born as an animal, plant, or divine being. So it's also an endless process. In Bhagavad Gita, it's clearly stated that reincarnation is a natural process of life that has to be followed by any mortal. So, as you mentioned, in Buddhism, the reincarnation concept is somewhat different because Buddha used the word punarbhava, and Buddhism denies the existence of a permanent soul. So, Buddha never accepted the transmigration of a soul, and he regarded the mind as a transient mental state. So, according to Buddhism, only the karma is passing from one life to another. So, to explain this, Buddha used the metaphor of the light of a candle, which derived from another candle without having a substance of its own. And if you read this King Milinda and Nagasena debate, you can find a lot of they have these conversations, they have this debate about reincarnation, and a lot of metaphors are given in that debate. Even the Christians, they believed resurrection instead of reincarnation. Resurrection is form of transformation of the body into immortal form of being. But the early Christian theologians, like Valentinus and Basilides of Alexandria, they believed in reincarnation. So in 553 AD, during the Second Council of Constantinople, the idea of reincarnation was banished, and it was rejected by the theologians. The Italian philosopher Giordano Bruno, he believed in reincarnation, and he was sentenced to death by the Inquisition. And Benjamin Franklin also believed in reincarnation. So Sigmund Freud, he thought that reincarnation is an attempt to deal with a fear of death. For Freud, this reincarnation was sort of human fantasy because he thought that naturally the man has a fear of death. In order to conquer that fear, they have this notion of once you are dead, you are being born again. But Carl Jung believed in collective unconscious. He believed in reincarnation, but in a form that we all share some collective unconscious. For instance, now my body has billions of atoms. So I share atoms of the people who lived many years ago. So probably, I don't know, any prominent person who lived maybe 100 years ago, maybe 200 years ago, or 500 years ago. I'm sharing the same atoms. So the consciousness. So Carl Jung says that it's a source of belief in reincarnation and memories of past lives. Because in the ancient civilizations, they share some common knowledge. For instance, a chakra in Indian and Mayan civilizations, even though these civilizations were too distinct and far away from each other and existed in different times, they shared something common, some archetypes common. So if you see the ancient civilization, Mexico, Egypt, Mesopotamia, in in various countries, you find some shared knowledge, shared wisdom, shared symbols. So some psychologists openly argue that past life memories are merely a result of collective unconscious because it's like a grid, it's like an internet grid, and we collect a lot of shared experiences. Actually, the reincarnation and Western world, uh, when we talk about that, we had to mention about two people, Father Leadbeater and Madame Helena Blavatsky of the Theosophical Society. So they started writing about and lecturing about life after death and it sort of for them it was a paranormal activity, and later in psychology they regarded this as parapsychology, and even in Hollywood, if you could recall some of the movies like Reincarnation of Peter Proud, Warren Beatty's Heaven Can Wait, and Demi Moore's Ghost. So these movies depicting reincarnation, and it brings the theme of reincarnation. And actually, the scientific work was first done by Dr. Ian Stevenson, who was a Canadian, and also he was a psychiatrist. He interviewed a large number of children who stated about their previous lives, and he had about 3,000 cases, including 16 cases from Sri Lanka. So his book, 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation, was a bestseller. And there he mentioned about his structured interviews and how these children were able to recall their past lives and how they identified their former relatives, etc. However, there are a lot of methodological flaws in Stevenson's
Ruwan,
research.
Ruwan, sorry,
Yes.
I'm interrupting. Are you moving the slides while talking? Because I didn't see any slides being moved. Oh, have you started
Yeah,
moving them?
yeah, I'm moving them. Don't you didn't
Oh,
see?
yeah. Okay. Now
You see
what?
the
Because I
same,
can see same
only the
slide, the
first slide,
first slide. Yeah. So because I knew that something was wrong. Can you?
something was wrong.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah, now it's moving. Yeah. Okay. If
can
you
you see
want to
that?
recap, yeah, yeah. Now it's moving. So if you want to
Moving.
recap,
Okay,
fine.
okay. So yeah. So do you see the slides now?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
it
I
moving?
do. Yeah, it is
Okay,
moving.
yeah. I think when we go to the full screen mode, it's the process is being
Yeah,
started. Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. That.
let me go through that. It's
Mm,
about what I mentioned about the Mesopotamians and the
yeah,
Sumerians and
that's right.
the Egyptian civilization and the Greek civilization and the Upanishads. So
Right.
this concept was there throughout in the
Mm,
history, and especially in Hinduism and even in Christianity, this concept was there in a, but they had different interpretations. In Buddhism, actually, the Buddha
mm,
denied the existence of the permanent soul. So Buddha said only the karma is passing from one life to another.
mm,
So yeah, so we captured that, and also we mentioned about the early versions. The early Christian theologians they believed in reincarnation, and after 1553 A.D., the Second Council of Constantinople, they
mm,
rejected the idea of reincarnation. Okay, and yeah, we spoke about collective unconscious, and the some of the knowledge shared by the ancient civilization. There was a much similarity, and some psychologists believe that whatever these past life records are merely a result of collective unconscious, because we share a lot of common information that's in our subconscious mind, and the work of Madame Blavatsky and Father Leadbeater. Then we came to casework of Ian Stevenson. So Stevenson wrote this book, 20 Cases Suggestive of Reincarnation, but his methodology was often questioned by the researchers because he was confirmation biased. When you start a scientific research, you should have some form of neutrality. But uh, in Dr. Ian Stevenson's case, he always had this reincarnation belief. in the back of his mind. So definitely it was confirmation biased, and he had no cultural competence when he was interviewing these children in Sri Lanka, India, Burma. He lacked this cultural sensitivity. And the other thing, he used translators. And now they have found most of these translators, either they consciously they offer data confirming reincarnation. So there was a lot of erroneous data that Stevenson got, and he disregarded cultural conditioning, and moreover, his hypotheses were not falsifiable. So we cannot accept Dr. Ian Stevenson's case studies as as a valid proof for reincarnation. So when you talk about skills and past life, some children show enormous talents. Like we don't know from where they acquire this knowledge and their skills, because not from the environment, not from their families. For instance, Mozart played his symphony at the age of 7, and Ramanujan mastered advanced trigonometry by the age of 12. So, our child prodigies are example of reincarnation. This is a sort of a very, very uh, thought-provoking question, because every time in different countries you meet child prodigies, like children with remarkable talents. So, what is the secret behind this? Actually, it's the skeptics. They attribute these skills to high functional autism. For instance, in Ramanujan's case, he was on the spectrum. He was a high functional autistic individual, and he was getting these messages. It's He thought a deity Namagiri was sending these messages to him, but it's all brain plasticity and abnormal brain mapping, and hyper brain with enhanced brain plasticity. So today we see a lot of children with these mastery abilities, and when you do brain scanning, you find enhanced brain plasticity in them. So enhanced neuroplasticity is a fact, and these children, they have an enormous cognitive capabilities. And the other thing is deja vu experience. I think it's a very universal and very human experience. Uh, I mean, everybody has experienced that. If you go to certain places where you have never been, and all of a sudden you get a feeling that you had been here before. So that's a form of deja vu experience. For example, you go to Scotland, you got a feeling when you see these ancient castles, you have a feeling that you have seen these, you have lived in these castles. And it's a sort of a weird and strange feeling. But obviously, you may have read Walter Scott's novels, and these images are deposited in your mind. So naturally, when you experience these memories are coming as flashbacks. So deja vu experiences are not memories of past lives, because it happens due to assimilation of information by brain's hemispheres in two different times, or in cryptomnesia. We'll discuss about cryptomnesia, and also in a temporal lobe epilepsy. Also, you can get deja vu experience. So, what is cryptomnesia? Cryptomnesia is where a person may have experienced something similar in current life and mistakenly attribute it to a past life. The best example I can give you what happened with General George Patton. During the World War II, he goes to Tunisia, and he goes to these Roman ruins and he says, I was here. He gets a feeling. In his memoirs, he writes that I had a previous life. I was a Roman general in my previous life. So this is cryptomnesia. Obviously, he had read about, he was a military man. So he had widely read about Roman campaigns and Roman art of war. So these things were deposited in his mind. So when he encountered these real ruins, obviously that the ideas, the memories started giving him certain flashbacks. And the other thing is xenoglossy, evidence for reincarnation. It's a phenomenon in which person is allegedly able to speak, write, or understand a foreign language that they could not have acquired by natural means. There are a number of children, probably you may have heard children from rural areas, all of a sudden they speak English, they speak French. They never had any exposure to this language from their family or from their environment. And some believe in reincarnation. They believe that xenoglossy provides evidence for reincarnation. Uh, in fact, I met Professor Nalin Silva 3 months prior to his death, and he was discussing about a child who could speak English very well. And this child is not from an English speaking family. So Professor Nalin was of the view that this was a form of reincarnation. So xenoglossy is not definitive evidence for reincarnation, and probably they suspect fraud, fantasy, and knowledge acquired through normal means. Sometimes these children have highly developed language abilities in their brains. The language sites are highly developed, and they pick up languages like nothing because they have the ability of subconscious language learning process. They have the gifted ability. For instance, this child, he speaks Hindi and English. So probably he was listening to he was watching television, he was watching YouTube videos. So these children, they pick up language very very fast because they have the innate ability to pick languages. So these are not evidence of reincarnation. And the other factor is foreign language syndrome and foreign accent syndrome are signs of disruption in brain function, especially from small focal lesions resulting from less left hemisphere strokes and tumors. In fact, I had a patient, one combatant, after traumatic brain injury, his accent changed. He had more Tamil accent. So this is a Sinhalese officer, and he was troubled by this because whenever he speaks, he gets a he comes with a Tamil accent. So this foreign accent syndrome, we know that it's due to brain dysfunction. So reincarnation is always go hand in hand with selective thinking. So it's a process that we focus on favorable evidence to justify a belief and we ignore the unfavorable evidence. And also false memory syndrome also give rise to the belief in reincarnation. It's it's a distorted memory. It affects our memory construction process, and people believe they go into they assume different identities, and they are affected by these memory lapses. Sometimes incorrect memories are being recorded. Another memory distortion is paramnesia, and the patients believe that he or she exists in two different parallel time points. So when we talk about reincarnation, obviously we hear Edgar Casey's name. Many believers in reincarnation bring Edgar Casey. So the American mystic Edgar Casey, he was known as the sleeping prophet. He did a lot of readings. He treated a lot of patients. He did about 16,000 readings. And he attributed their symptomatology for their previous lives and previous the the negative actions committed by them. So he attributed it to their karmic factor. Probably you may have read this book, Many Mansions by Gina Sarminara. It's a very, very prominent book. And after publishing this book, a lot of people came to know about Edgar Casey. And Edgar Casey's readings, does it prove reincarnation? So, based on modern investigation of Casey's readings, and he disregarded the etiology. And according to Casey, people were born during the American Civil War or either Egyptian uh, period or during Atlantis. So there was nothing in between. And the other thing, as I mentioned, he disregarded the etiology of an illness. Once those patients who had epilepsy, he said they had committed adultery in their previous lives. So actually, these are erroneous notion. As a medical practitioner, we know that epilepsy has a different etiology. It has a lot of other etiological factors. But for Casey came to very, very simple conclusions like that. So we know that modern neurophysiology explains the genesis of epilepsy that has organic causes in the brain and change of brain chemistry, etc. And he was never subjected to proper testing. And he offered very, very simple folk medicines. So Casey's readings are not very powerful. Like if you deconstruct and if you read analytically, you find that there's a lot of mistakes are there, and it's all about fantasies. Some people say that past life regression provide evidence for reincarnation. So past life regression or past life therapy are based on argument that some people carry their subconscious mind memories of unpleasant events from their past lives. So when they are under hypnosis, these memories come into the surface. So, medical experts indicate that past life regressions increases one's susceptibility to false memories. So, we don't know whether these are false memories or repressed childhood memories. So, hypnotic regression is not a scientific evidence for reincarnation. Most of the time, repressed childhood memories, sometimes erroneous memories, come into action, and they are wrongly interpreted as evidence of past lives. So I would like to tell you the story about search for Bride Murphy. So one hypnotherapist, Maury Bronstein, he once hypnotized a housewife named Virginia T. And during the hypnotic session, Virginia T told that she lived in Ireland and she could recite some old Irish poems. And she gave vivid descriptions about the certain locations in Ireland. And all these whatever she mentioned were recorded. So later, a group of lawyers, they wanted to investigate a Bridie Murphy case. They went to Ireland, they pulled all records, and they really found there was a person named Bridie Murphy and lived in Ireland. And there were a lot of compatibility. What she mentioned about the places, because she mentioned about a laundry and some of the names. So Bridie Murphy case was sort of very thought-provoking case for reincarnation, but it was reanalyzed, and they found that Miss Virginia T had an Irish nanny when she was small. So whatever these poems that she uttered during the hypnotic trance came from her repressed childhood memories, and she learned these from her Irish nanny. And the famous case study of Jnana Tilaka, if you could remember Navatupandarya, that's done by Dr. H.S. Nisanka along with Reverend Piyadasi somewhere in the early 70s. So the Jnana Tilaka, who was born in uh, Talawakeli. So when she was small, she started talking about a person named Tilakaratna. She lived in Aranayaka, and she mentioned a few names. So her parents took her to Aranayaka, and she recognized her recognized her parents, her sister, brother in the previous life. So this became a huge sensation, and a lot of newspapers started reporting this as a true case of reincarnation. Even Dr. Ian Stevenson was fascinated by this story. Later, Dr. Abraham Kaur, he investigated this case, and he pointed out that the death certificate of Tilakaratna that was produced by the research team was not a genuine one. It was some other Tilakaratna who died in Aranayaka Hospital, not this particular Tilakaratna. And Jnana Tilaka was conditioned. Why I'm telling you this? I worked as the MOH and Divisional Director of Health Services in Minipe. There I met one doctor who worked at Morayai Hospital, Dr. Dharmasiri Herat. Dr. Herat knew Jnana Tilaka and the family. Jnana Tilaka, now an Ayurvedic practitioner. So he had spoken to Jnana Tilaka. So Jnana Tilaka had told him that when she was small, she was bombarded with a lot of these ideas. And so what eventually she was conditioned. And so-called this research team added a lot of stuff what she mentioned, and they gave different interpretations. So this was a huge drama, and this was not an authentic reincarnation investigation. And we have to know that hysteria type of reactions, like children suffering from dissociative disorder, sometimes they give vivid narratives. Sometimes they mention that they lived in the 19th century. They say that one time he was the Maharaja, or can say that he lived during King Sita Vakaraja Singha's time. Is all because these vivid narrations could come under hysteria type of reactions. And there are a lot of case studies, and some of the case studies were mentioned by Dr. Carlo Fonseca. So Dr. Brian Weiss, he introduced past life therapy. He's a psychiatrist, also a very good hypnotherapist. So when he hypnotized some of his patients, they mention about their previous lives, and also their current emotional problems were had some connection with their past life, and some of the repercussions of their previous actions. And then he published this book, Many Lives, Many Masters. There he brings the case study of Catherine. vividly mentions about her past lives and her previous behavior, and how she was tormented, and how she was getting nightmares and anxiety attacks. All these symptomatology was attributed to her previous life. But the researchers, they categorically mentioned that in hypnotic regression, this past life, especially childhood memories, come into action, and it's wrongly interpreted as evidence of past life. This hypnotic session I did in 2006 at Military Hospital, Colombo. This session was witnessed by Dr. Nimal Karyaratne, consultant physician, Dr. Tissa Vijayaratne, consultant surgeon, and Brigadier Soisa, consultant surgeon, and Dr. S.S. Jayaratne, consultant surgeon. So, in front of all these great doctors, I conducted this hypnotic session, and this soldier mentioned that in his previous life he lived in Kurunegala. He mentioned his name, his brother's name, where he was working, and he gave a vivid description about his previous life. And out of curiosity, Dr. Tissa Vijayaratne took me to Kurunegala, and we found some landmarks. But I don't believe that this is an authentic reincarnation experiment, because most of the stuff he uttered came from his childhood repressed memories. So I'm very skeptical about my own study. Dr. Raymond Moody, he did near-death experiments. Like, he interviewed a lot of people who encountered near-death experiences, and is a perception reported by a person who's nearly died or who was clinically dead and revived. The experience often includes out-of-body experience, and sometimes they go through a tunnel, sometimes they levitate, they can see their body. It's a sometimes they experience hallucinations. So near death experiences are unique. If you are a Christian, if you encounter near death experience, you might see Saint Peter's. If you are a Hindu, you might see Shiva. And as a joke, I always say, if you are a non-believer, you might see Ozzy Osbourne. So Raymond Moody, he published this book, Life After Life, and he wanted to say that there's another entity, and those people who experience near NDEs, they came with a lot of stories. Some are very convincing, and he reported these cases, and he wanted to say there's something beyond death. So this is one of my case studies. In 2003, when I was working at the military hospital, I was referred this patient by Dr. S.S. Jayaratne, a consultant surgeon. This patient sustained a head injury due to mortar blast injury during the operation Jayasikuru. So he described, let me read what he mentioned. So he says, I heard a loud noise and realized that it was a mortar attack by the LTTE. Suddenly, I found that I was bleeding from my head and I fell down. I could hear the gunfire and blast sounds. There was a dark smoke. The next thing I realized was that I was going out of my physical body and floating. I was going up and could see the battlefield. I saw bunkers from above, saw dead bodies and the black smoke, but I did not hear any sound. It was a sensational feeling and it was very peaceful. I saw my body down there near the bunker and I could identify it easily. I saw bleeding from my head, but I felt no pain. Suddenly, I wanted to join with my body and rapidly I came down. Then I felt pain in my head and heard the sound. I opened my eyes. I was lying on the ground helplessly. After some time, a group of soldiers came and took me to the hospital. I wish I could stay up there without joining the body. It was so peaceful there. So this is what the patient told us when he experienced his NDE. And what is the explanation? Was it real or was it due to any hallucination? This is what I think. Actually, what happens when a candle gets to the end? It becomes very brighter, the same as our brains, like because it starts firing neurons, and mostly the near-death experiences are caused by reduced blood flow, uh, and also with abnormal electrical behavior inside the brain. Then people go into vivid hallucinations. They are having these going through a tunnel, seeing a light, seeing some people. Sometimes the religious leaders. Sometimes they are dead relatives, and it's a paranormal activity, but still it can be explained via. We can give neurological explanation for that. Dr. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, she worked with a lot of seniors, and she worked with people who were dying. And her book on death and dying in 1969, it was a bestseller. And she says that death is simply a shedding of the physical body, like a butterfly shedding its cocoon. It's a transition to a higher state of consciousness where you continue to perceive, to understand, to laugh, and to be able to grow. So Kubler Ross implied that there may be another dimension after death, and she gives specific stages when a person is facing his death, and a lot of encounters, lot of emotional reactions. But the experts say that the dying does not happen in a stage like progression. And the other thing, all dying patients are unique. And what Kubler-Ross describes, it's uh, it's because they suspect her sample, because not every person is experiencing similar encounters like what she described. So this is a very, very powerful notion, and sometimes experts bring quantum theory to prove reincarnation, because especially quantum entanglement, that explains how two subatomic particles can be intimately linked to each other even if separated by billions of light years of space. These particles communicate faster than the speed of light. So we know that concept of reincarnation cannot be explained through classical Newtonian physics, and there is no empirical evidence to prove reincarnation using mathematics or cell biology. And they use quantum physics to explain the reincarnation process. But we know that consciousness is a complex and multi-phased phenomenon, and that quantum entanglement is a physical reality. We cannot attribute it to reincarnation, because reincarnation is a metaphysical concept. It falls outside the scope of quantum physics and mainstream science. So this is the final conclusion by the experts. They say there is currently no scientific evidence to support the idea that quantum mechanics can explain reincarnation. So those who try to bring quantum mechanics, I don't think we can buy that. So biologically, reincarnation is explained in terms of the expression of dominant genes that come from the ancestors. And we know that sometimes genetic disorders are typically passed down. I don't know whether these this is parallel to what Buddha said, because it's not the person, it's the karmic force, or we don't know whether this is genetic disorders are typically passed down through generations. And also the past life testimonies. Also, we cannot accept those as valid information, because those are influenced by psychological and cultural factors, and it's those are products of social conditioning rather than actual memories of past lives. So, what we have to say is reincarnation is a belief in the absence of valid empirical data. There is no scientific evidence to prove reincarnation. Being said that, I would like to echo the words of Professor Stephen Hallis. He says there would have been not much difficulty in accepting the reincarnation hypothesis if it's empirically testable, falsifiable, and subject to confirming evidence. So maybe reincarnation cannot be proven within the scope of generally acceptable scientific thinking. So 500 years ago, if somebody says that there are radio waves, what would have been the expression? Because that time we didn't have any instrument to measure or show there are radio waves. So probably reincarnation may be something like that. It may be outside the scope of our measurements and can't be falsified. So, but we have to say it, reincarnation is an unknown phenomenon that needs more research and investigation. The tools and technology that we use today may not be advanced enough to discover a natural phenomenon like reincarnation. So that ends my little presentation about reincarnation. If you have any questions, you are most welcome. I'll try to answer.
Okay. Dr. Ruwan, I
Yeah.
will open the floor for questions. And I mean, just to keep the ball rolling, I'll ask the first question. And in the meantime, you can actually exit from the PowerPoint.
Okay.
So, okay,
Okay.
great. Now,
So, guys,
Ruwan, now,
yeah. Sorry about these technical difficulties I had, and I'm sorry that I couldn't go into the large screen. And in the first 10-15 minutes, I was just talking, and the people couldn't see the
no,
slides.
no, no. Yeah, no damage is done anyway. So, uh,
I'm
I mean,
glad.
like
I'm
later
glad.
when you showed up. So now, Ruwan, let's look at it from the layman's point of view. Now, the science is the only available tool to verify this. Otherwise it will remain as a belief. That's true. Now, this Naivala incident, now that was given a huge media hype. And then this boy was speaking in Hindi, then he's speaking in English with an accent, and he has never studied English. And then, you know, the media really, took it on, and it was a huge publicity. Then later, the whole thing died down. And I remember reading a small article somewhere. It may have been because he had been given a tab by his uncle, and he was sort of virtually addicted to that. And he may have got
Mhm.
that whole thing from, because it's a fresh brain, so he may have absorbed. But don't you think? But having said that, we wouldn't sort
Mhm.
of deny the fact that he was
Indeed, indeed. We
speaking
have to
like
we
that.
have to have an very open mind.
That's right. But what I'm saying is, no, that was a great opportunity for scientists and the medical, personalities to take that up as a research and then go into all aspects, of course, with the permission of the parents and so on. But I think we missed that opportunity. So similarly, even the story that you mentioned before. So my question is whether the medical field and psychological or the relevant field, whether they are taking sufficient measures, whenever you come across someone, whether to sort of go into, in-depth analysis, at least that would help us understand little more than the current conclusion where you say there is no empirical evidence. So that's just a statement. It's not a question, rather.
Yeah, Dr. Maningasekar, the point is actually these events first reported by the media. So they have the media sensations and also they exaggerate. That's the normal procedure. And they make the conclusions. So the media people say that this child in his previous life he was a linguist, or he was living in England, he was living in Scotland, or whatever, and now he speaks very good English, and this family never had that. He couldn't give that exposure. Or similarly, like he speaks Hindi, so probably in his previous life he lived in India. So these are very very lame conclusions,
Hmm,
and we know that in xenoglosy and foreign accent syndrome, these children have highly developed brain areas, the language areas. So they pick up language, they pick up social cues very faster than other people. In a way, these children are having very highly
hmm,
functional brain system. So their brain capacity and also plasticity is enhanced. So these are gifted children. These are gifted children.
hmm.
Just watching one or two YouTube videos, they can pick up language. I know several
Yeah.
children like that. I know of a child who speaks very good English with a very British accent, but their
Hmm,
parents know that actually the child is on the spectrum. He
hmm,
has autism, and these children, his parents are more educated, and they had never come to this conclusion that this
hmm,
knowledge was acquired through his previous birth. It's very difficult to do such investigations because first we see everything from the newspapers, and
hmm,
once the conclusions are given by the media people, it's very difficult for the professionals to do proper investigation and then extract the truth, because while doing that, either family and the media people, they also condition the child.
hmm.
So
Yeah.
they, not directly, sometimes indirectly, they propose questions, so the child is sort of buying what they say. They say that, "Well, have you seen India, have you seen Taj Mahal, were you born in
Hmm,
India?" So these children are very smart, so they pick up these things, and subsequently, when they mention something, they pick up whatever they heard from outside. So same thing happened to Jnana Tilaka's case, this Navatu Pandarya, because a lot
hmm,
of people gave her ideas. A lot of people asked questions. Not one investigator. It's a whole group of people asking about her previous life, especially the Queen's visit. If you read that book, it's vividly narrated. And in her present life, she had not seen the ocean. So they're asking questions. What color is the ocean? Is it blue, or it's like, it's very. She was 7 years old, and probably she must have seen some pictures. So and once you condition the child, it's very difficult to uh, extract the correct data from them. Same thing happened to Dr. Ian Stevenson, because in his case he was using translators. Sometimes translators wanted to impress him, and they gave him some false data.
Right. So let's ask we have a few members in the audience. Would you like to raise a question on this topic today? Reincarnation, is it a myth or a fact? Is there anyone in the audience?
Or else you can
Someone
email
might.
me.
Mhm.
If you have any questions, you can email me, because we are going to record this. We are going to put this into YouTube, and we'll send you the link. And from there, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Uh, I'll try to answer. I'll try to email you the whatever the answers I can give you.
Right. So, with the absence of with the absence of more questions from the audience, we can come to a conclusion. Now, before doing so, I will just relate a experience. Once, Professor Carlo Fonseca, whom I associated very closely, and as you know, he was supporting Dr. Kaur's, that very radical kind of, at that time they were going and challenging all this. Now, Dr. Carl Fonseca brought a replica of a brain into a debate, and even Professor Nalin was there in the TV debate in Doramandala, and he kept the brain on the table, and the discussion was about the mind. He said, as far as the profession in which I'm engaged, mind is this, and he showed the brain. Now, some of the things that you mentioned, after some traumatic experiences, some brain damages, or some kind of, impact on the brain, the whole thing changes. Yes, so scientifically, one can go as far as that. Now, what is unknown is the external factor that will have an impact on the brain functions. It may not be physical, but it can be
Mhm.
something not physical loss. Now that can't be ascertained because, as you said, radio waves. If you had told this, even 20 years ago, the smartphone was a
Mhm.
dream. So
Yeah.
so science will continue to find these. It will, but my grievance is that whether the scientists are giving adequate time for this, adequate research. I mean, when you say research, to take the bias out. Now, you said so many things. Even the translator can bias the research study. The
Mhm.
translator. So
Yeah.
that means the study can get affected at any stage. So
Indeed.
uh,
Indeed.
yeah.
Actually, people think that the consciousness can prevail outside the brain. I mean, it's even I asked this question from Professor Carlo Fonseca in 2009 when he came to visit our hospital, because at that time I was the focal point of mental health in Putlam district, and we organized a mental health program, and he was the chief guest. And there I had the opportunity of asking about his these during his young days. He was involved with this rational movement and all the Kataragama saga, etc. Actually, he gave very interesting answers. So this particular question I asked, whether the consciousness can it prevail after our death, he said no. With once you die, once the brain dies, everything goes. I want to put this analogy in a different way. Probably. You may like Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler, the great guitarist. So when he plays his Gibson guitar, where does the sound come from? Sound come from his fingers or from the Gibson guitar?
Hmm.
So if you say the Gibson guitar, I would buy it. If I have money, I
mm,
would pay at least, I don't know, maybe $500,000, and if I have money, I would buy that guitar. But if I have the guitar, so I won't be able to get that guitar riff.
mm,
And without the guitar, then the Mark Knopfler's fingers are nothing. So this is a summation. This is a combination of everything.
mm,
So his fingers, the guitar, and the amplifier, everything. So everything makes that unique sound. So our consciousness also the same. It's maybe some people think brain is the hardware,
mm, mm.
and once the hardware is destroyed, there is no a place for the software to exist. Still, we don't know. What we know is, with our current knowledge, with our current whatever the tools we have brain scanning system, CT scans, uh, and whatever the equipment we have. What we can say is there's still no evidence the consciousness is prevailing after death. There may be a lot of philosophical notions, philosophical explanations, and religious explanations, but based on the scientific research, I don't know, up to date. Maybe tomorrow or maybe a week after, there will be more research, more parapsychology research, but still the answer is no.
Right. So, well, I think we can come to a conclusion with that. So, we are thankful to you once again for taking the time to present this very rigorous and laborious presentation, because although it was confined to a few slides, but so much of study that has gone into that. And it will be not only in your interest in your academic career, but also to share it among the people who are really into these areas. So in our next discussion, we'll take up the modern spirituality and what they are talking about: consciousness, mind, and the physical body, and so on. But we need another at least 1 hour to discuss about that. So we will invite you for
Yes.
that discussion so that we can continue this. So Ruwan, thanks a lot indeed, and we will continue with this discussion in the future too.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me.
And thank
Thank
you
you.
for the audience for joining us. And please, we will state the email address of Dr. Ruwan once this is uploaded, so that you can communicate with him and send him the questions so that you will get a response. Thanks a lot, and good night, everyone.
Thank you.